since last week, Joe Biden called it quits as a candidate. Well, he didn't have much choice since most of the leaders in his own party called for him to walk the plank. Now, for a few days, we didn't see him or even hear from him. His announcement was on X, formerly Twitter, and was signed electronically. And it led to wild speculations as to his condition. Now, in all fairness, I'm no fan of Joe Biden's angry screeds and tirades against the MAGA Republicans that he calls a threat to democracy, or certainly not his policies that have decimated middle-class families' ability just to do simple things, buy gas and groceries. But I truly felt for him as he faced the chorus of his longtime friends and allies demanding that he hit the showers. Look, I can attest to the fact that it's hard to make the decision to enter a race for political office. It really is. But you know what? Most people will never know this. It's much harder to make the decision to leave the race. It hurts even more when the people that you trusted the most are the ones shoving you out the door. It was as close to a political coup as we have ever witnessed in America. Within a few minutes, the anointing was poured on Vice President Kamala Harris, who, in the first day of her being the Democrat candidate for president, raised a record amount of dough, even though the process for her being the nominee was anything but democratic. Maybe they ought to change the name of the Democrat Party to the Autocratic Party, because it appears that rather than a genuine excitement for Kamala Harris, the enthusiasm for the Democrats is their blind, irrational, but devoted animosity toward Donald Trump. It's not that they're for her as much as they are against Donald Trump. Now, many questions remain in this drama. If Joe isn't fit to be a candidate, how is he still fit to be president until next January? After all, governing really is a lot harder than campaigning. Trust me, I've done a lot of both. And will the media ever own up to their lies for the past 4 years covering for an obviously declining President Biden, who they repeatedly said was just fine, up to the job, better than ever, in total control and command, and sharp as a tack? Don't count on it. They'll never admit it. But since they've lied to us about pretty much everything, from telling us that Trump was a Russian asset to repeating such fabrications that he called Nazis very fine people, or told people they ought to put bleach in their veins during COVID, or that he disparaged the military, since they lied about all of that, maybe we ought to take most everything they say with a grain of salt. Speaking of big stories, we finally have found someone who did what I didn't think was possible: bring unity to Washington. In the most sharply divided city in the world, this week brought us a show of national unity among Democrats and Republicans that we haven't seen since 9/11, because it was when Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle showed up under subpoena for a congressional hearing. Calls for her to be fired or resign came unanimously from both sides of the aisle. Imagine an issue that brought AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene together. Who would have ever believed it? So give Kim Cheadle her due. Sure, she was an incompetent, unrepentant, and arrogant director of the Secret Service who dodged even the simplest questions that were put to her, and she stonewalled and covered up every fact of why Donald Trump was almost assassinated on live TV by some 20-year-old kid who seemed to outsmart and outmaneuver every agent in her agency. But she proudly heralded that she was building a diverse agency. Oh, diversity. Turns out that both Democrats and Republicans would be just happy with a competent one. A day later, she came to her senses and finally resigned. Who knows what's next in these summer months? Summer months are normally slow news cycles. Not this summer. We have no idea what to expect, but we know that we will do our best to make sense of it for you. And if that is even possible, we'll give it our best shot.